For anybody who's heard about shadow work before, I want to just clear up what it is from like its oldest roots that we can find evidence of, and even beyond that. That way it makes sense going forward. So in the late 1800s, early 1900s, Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud were like the fathers of psychotherapy. And Sigmund Freud was Carl Jung's mentor, and he was trying to coax Jung into doing all the things that he was doing and get him to think the same way. Because at that time, there wasn't research. Nobody was like, let's study this and see how this empirical data can tell us. They were like, I have a great idea, and I'm going to try it on 50 unwilling people. And we're just going to see how it goes. And if it works, I'm going to write a paper about it. Everybody's going to love it. And that was how psychotherapy really began. And as crazy as that sounds and how lacking in empirical data it was, there was some stuff that came out of that time that was spot on. So we all know about Freud and his work with, the ego. We talk about the ego all the time in the spiritual community. And we talk about the conscious mind, the subconscious, which is the stuff that's just below the surface, and the unconscious, which is the stuff that is super buried and hidden away from you. When Carl Jung came onto the scene to work with Freud, that was all done. Freud had already decided on all those things, and he was writing papers and starting his own school of thought. Carl Jung took some of his ideas and was like, I can do more with this. I can make a name for myself. And he started looking into the unconscious mind. So he would work with his patients and try to regress them to the point, like sort of like in a deep, deep meditative state, to get them to remember things that they hadn't remembered before. So he was doing that, and he called the unconscious mind the shadow. That was his rebrand so that he could slap his name on something. Nice. And then shadow work was the process of doing that deep meditative work to get them to remember things they'd forgotten. And during those sessions, things would come up that clients were like, I don't remember that ever happening to me. And then they'd talk to their older siblings or their mom and dad and siblings were like, you don't remember like drowning in the lake and like so-and-so got you out of there? Yeah, that absolutely happened. Wow. So he was getting enough feedback from people that it was like, oh my God, I fact checked this and this is legit, that he started running with these concepts. So now in 2025, the psychotherapy community has rebranded shadow work again, and they've called it something else, but they're actually doing research around it. There's a section of psychotherapy called internal family systems. Sounds super friendly. Yeah, and there's a piece of it called parts work, and parts work is shadow work. And during that, what they're doing is they're regressing people to the point where they can bring up those repressed memories through theta brainwave state and watch as we break down the system within your mind, because we can break down old neural pathways, which is like the ways you see the world. And when it's done in that capacity, your eyes are open. And what the therapist is looking for is to see your eyes start to vibrate. Because when they do that, it actually means an old neural pathway in the brain is breaking down. So they're looking for this. I know,
gives me chills. That's crazy.
So now we have the research to back up this super old thing. So now that I got that out of the way,